The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. My name is Ryan Greigg, and as always, I'm here with the incredible, amazing, outstanding Jacqueline Smith. The 15-Point Plan podcast, it comes out every week. It's 15 to 20 minutes on things that you can put into action. It's a system. You can download this system actually at winmakegive.com, and it's things that you can do that just simply make your life better. Simple things like moving your body, hydrating your body, getting a little journaling in, or maybe a little bit of meditation. And what we found is when we do these things, or Jacqueline, as we're going to talk about, when we don't do these things, it really truly impacts our overall emotional intelligence, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I think, I've been really noticing it lately, just as I talk to real estate agents specifically, just people in general that are in business. And I've seen a few studies now where they have proven there's a direct correlation in emotional intelligence and success, whether it's in business or in your career of choice. I'd venture to guess in your marriage, in your parenting. And so what is emotional intelligence? Because maybe not everyone knows what emotional intelligence is.
I'm glad you asked, because I had to kind of second guess myself. So of course I went and looked it up, and emotional intelligence, or EQ, is simply the ability to recognize, manage, and use your own and others' emotions to make better decisions, build trust, and perform under pressure, which is why it's, in our world, the real estate world, so important, right? Keeping our emotions in check.
So you said something really key. You said under pressure. And so obviously everyone can be great when everything's going our way. Like, we don't really need to have a lot of emotional regulation if everything's perfect, but we know that life isn't perfect. Certainly business is not perfect. Real estate's not perfect. Our kids aren't perfect, right? So we have to be able to regulate ourselves. And so you said EQ. I think most people know what IQ is, right? And EQ is, they've said in various studies and articles I've read that more than IQ, EQ is a predictor and a differentiator when it comes to success and fulfillment.
And that makes sense. And when I think about that, an easy way to kind of analyze or describe that is, imagine the most intelligent person in the world. Imagine the smartest guy or girl sitting there just throwing a temper tantrum because they got all under pressure. Like you said, they got stressed out.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to want to talk to that person. Nobody's going to want to be around that person. They're going to want to do business with them, or like you said, be in a relationship with them. So you can be the IQ smartest person in the world, but if your EQ, your emotions are not in check, nobody's going to want to be around you. And you mentioned the word pressure, because we often think of pressure and stress. And remember, not all stress has to be a bad thing, but it's the emotional intelligence that allows us to manage the stress, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay, so there's 5 key or core components to emotional intelligence. I think we should talk through these. I will say that the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, if any of our listeners have not read that book, I literally think everyone should have to read that book. Even, as teenagers, young adults, have your kids read it. But the 5 components, the first one is self-awareness. So that's being able to have an accurate read on your internal state. You know what you're feeling and you know why. So as a really fun example that we can all relate to, when you are being hangry, you are not being self-aware. Because I don't know about you, Ryan, but when my husband and I are hangry, especially at the same time, like, we don't know that we're hangry. In fact, we will I'll say to Phil, or he'll say to me, like, have you eaten? And I'll sometimes even just lie. I'm like, yeah, of course I have. And so, when you're hangry, that's an example of when you're actually not being self-aware. Or when you're just really stressed about something at work and you go home and you're kind of maybe snippy with your spouse or your kids or whatever because you're really stressed, but you're not aware that you're stressed. So you're not aware of your internal state. You don't know what you're feeling and you don't know why. You're just like taking it out and projecting it on other people. So self-awareness is an accurate read on your internal state. You know what you're feeling and why. And then the regulation part comes next because you can't regulate what you're not aware of. Yeah. So your self-regulation is you choose responses instead of reacting. So your emotion informs your action, but it doesn't drive your response. So those are the two key: self-awareness, self-regulation. The third one, Ryan, is motivation. So you can sustain effort without external pressure or emotional highs. So that's like you can self-govern and you can regulate yourself to do things. You don't need constant pressure or nudging or prodding to do it. Number 4 is empathy. So you understand what others are experiencing without absorbing it. And then social skills, you communicate in a way that moves people towards clarity and action. So like if you think of the self-awareness and self-regulation piece is like that's yourself, right? Then the empathy and the social skill, that's how you're showing up and interacting with others and being aware of their state without absorbing it yourself, right?
It's such a good framework to look through and follow, like starting with the awareness and then just thinking, what of the 15-point plan are some of the things that would impact me? We'll take just like, okay, sleep, number 1. I didn't sleep that well. Then I woke up and I was in a rush to get out of the house and I didn't eat that well. Then I didn't eat that well and I didn't drink that much water. And now it's like, we are just a recipe for poor emotional intelligence, poor decisions to be made, and being grumpy. And again, in business or in our relationships, look at how quickly that can happen if we're not managing what we're putting into our body and the things that we are doing to ourselves with simple things, again, like having some good food around, having some water around, and spending a little bit of time to ourselves so that when we show up for the people in the world that truly matter, we're actually someone that they want to be around and we're our best self. So it's really easy to see that, and it's easy to point the finger, Jacqueline, like, well, that person, they could do this. But I think about myself, like you said with you and Phil, hunger is a major one. And as I say that, like we mentioned that I'm on a juice cleanse right now. And one of the reasons that I do that, so it's like 3 days with only juice or very, very little food. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I do these is so that I know what it feels like to have extreme hunger and have that practice of being like, I'm actually super hungry right now, but I'm training my brain to be able to get through those moments. So when I get food or when I eat food, it's even easier. But there will always come times where maybe you're traveling or you're doing something and you do get hungry. Have you actually practiced what that's like? And that's why I like doing these types of things, because it's an actual practice for the real life. When you're out for 8 hours and you didn't eat, well, are you going to become a crabby Krabby Patty?
I thought you were going to say something else there. A crabby little beep. So, well, and I actually think that all of the 15-point, or most of them, do really impact our self-awareness and our self-regulation. Like if you just think about self-awareness, journaling's been said to be really the number one way to increase your self-awareness. And again, you cannot regulate what you're not aware of. So a lot of us, when we even think of journaling, we think of journaling, maybe we do it at the beginning of the day, we do it at the end of the day, or prayer, meditation, you do that at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. But think about if you were to do those things throughout the day, how much you would build your awareness and then therefore your ability to self-regulate. So like an example of this would be, I'm going home, I'm super stressed about something that I just had like a crazy phone call from a client, right? If I had a practice that before I get out of the car in the garage and go into the house, I maybe open up my notes app and like take account or close my eyes for a few minutes, take account of like how I'm feeling. What is my internal state? What am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling like a crabby beep. Right? And I'm not going to go into the house and be unaware and dysregulated. I can now, maybe I do some breathing. Maybe I put some music on and do Brendan Burchard's release meditation. Maybe I have a mantra where I get out of the car and I say, okay, work is over. I'm going in. I'm going to love my family and set my intention for who I want to be when I walk into the front door. But again, the prayer, the journaling, the meditation, like throughout the day, why not just, why do it only at the beginning or the end when you can actually maybe have more frequent check-ins with yourself to have the ability to then regulate whatever it is that's going on throughout the day.
It's a really good point. And it's good to think about I heard the word snacks, like movement snacks throughout the day. Like I really, at first I was like, oh, that's like, why? Like you work out in the morning and then you're good for the day. But if you're sitting like we might be, like we are right now, and you're sitting for an hour or then a couple hours, like that quick movement, quote, snack, where you, I don't know, maybe it's 10 squats or 10 push-ups or 10 jumping jacks. If you did 10 jumping jacks a couple times a day or 20 jumping jacks or 20 push-ups a couple times a day, you're getting the blood flow again. You're getting a little bit of a workout. You're getting a boost of oxygen to your brain. So I like that idea of these quick little bursts. Same thing with the meditation. Like it doesn't have to be a 20-minute meditation or 5 minutes. You just take a moment to slow down. Take a moment to listen to your breath and do that a few times throughout the day. And it's really going to help you regulate your state of mind so that, again, your emotional intelligence, how you react and how you respond, can be the way that you want it to be and not just a reaction.
Yeah. I think of like movement for me. I know that like when I don't get movement in, I am the crabby beep that you were talking about, right? When I don't look at my goals every single day, like, and write out my goals, I don't have motivation. And when I'm not able to regulate and I'm not even aware of my own state and I'm not regulated and I haven't slept and I'm hungry and I haven't worked out, I'm sorry, but I have zero empathy for your beep beep, right? Like my empathy and my social skills it tanks.
I agree. And so I think that when the more we know this about ourselves, Jacqueline, maybe speaking of empathy, maybe we can have some empathy for those around us. And when we see somebody that we really know and that we love, and they react in a way that we know, you know what? Like Phil might say, like, "Hey, you could say it like, did you eat?" Or you could say it like,
that's exactly how we say it.
or we might say like, "Hey, do you
want a snack
with me? Like, do you want to get a snack with me?" Like, it was really cool the other day. Like Bentley, my son, said, "Oh, I have a little bit of a headache." And I'm like, "Why?" I always ask him, "Why do you think that is?" Or "Why do you think you got sick?" He's like, "I don't know." But I said, "Oh, you have a headache, huh?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you think you drank enough water today?" He's like, "No, I didn't. I didn't drink enough water today." So it's cool that he's recognizing that as we sip our water. But a lot of the times, what was Ben's quote? Everything everything psychological is biological.
Yes.
We think we're like, really worn out, but in reality, we just need a little snack. We need a little drink of water. We need a minute or two to ourselves, and we will bounce back a lot quicker than we might give ourselves credit for. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at the 15-point plan. We're looking at business. We're looking at our emotional intelligence. Are we doing the things from the 15-point plan that we know are proven that will make it so that we have a high level of emotional intelligence and really just can show up the best possible version of ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super important for as parents that we mirror this and like show up and model these habits and a regulated state, because we teach people, right? Like we teach people around us how to behave. And the marriage thing and the hangry thing is a perfect example of how you can like negatively feed off of each other. And then just like being able to, like you said, have that empathy. But first, in order to have that empathy, you kind of have to be grounded yourself, otherwise it's harder to show up that way for other people when you're actually not even showing up for yourself. Like, so if you think of like self-regulation could be empathy for yourself.
Big time. Big time. Speaking of kids, I think we're going to jump into more on emotional intelligence, helping kids regulate that in our next episode. So as always, check out past episodes, winmaygive.com. You can find both Jacqueline and myself on all social media platforms, Ryan Park Greigg and Jacqueline Ray Smith. Until next time, everybody, we thank you for listening to another amazing episode of the 15 Point Plan podcast. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.